have that focus.
Well, do
I don't
do you
know.
do you feel like the lack of sleep helps with your art in a way? Like, I'm an insomniac, and I can tell you, like, I wouldn't be as productive as I am if I didn't not get sleep, I would say. I mean, it just depends on the person, I guess.
Maybe. No, I think it really hurts me. I think what it is like an intense amount of adrenaline that is like coursing through my veins just for a sheer like almost pseudo panic kind of thing.
What
Like
are you panicking
it's
about?
I mean just life. Like I not panic, but it's like it's latent. And I'm not sleeping well, so then when I wake up, it's a lot of it is that I'm not exercising like I should. And that's I think why. If I exercise, it would be a whole other thing. My body would probably level out, but I'm forcing myself into a lot of things that I find more important right now, which is just taking on some challenges that um,
Well, how much has
I feel
changed since
like
the last time we talked? Like, because it's been a while. I mean, it's been probably almost a
I
year
got
and a half now.
fired.
I mean, I've got fired too. I was working at the well, I didn't get fired actually. That's a crazy one. They literally I guess we had new management and I had to deal with like they brought me to this room. They're like, "Look, this is a warning and I need you to sign this." And like before I could sign it, I'm like looking around the room. I'm like, "Why does it feel so weird? Like there's an awkward tension in the air you can cut with a knife." And I'm like, "Okay, so I signed this. Let me read it over." And she was expecting me just to sign it and go right through with it. And it said in fine print, it was like the next warning I get, that's it. And I'm like, all right. And it's new management. She was only there like a month. And I was like,
Right.
you could tell it was phasing me out. I was like, all right. So I signed it. As soon as I signed it, she pulls out another one. I'm like, oh, I was like, okay, all right. And I had it on video, on my phone and everything. It's an 18-minute long video. And I was like, yeah, I got you. And she was like, she would tell me, pull your phone out. I want to make sure you're not recording. I'm like, I can do what I want. Like
Yeah, like I can record this. If this is
honestly, it's
gonna
for the better though.
yeah. Well, no, I mean it was totally for the better for me, but it is my first time. I was 39 years old and got fired. Well, no, I was 38 then. I turned 39 in August. So I got fired in May of 2000 or 2020. It was the first time I've ever been fired. So,
That's a long
that's I
streak
mean
though. That's something to hang your head high on.
yeah, I mean I guess. I mean I was going to quit if I hadn't gotten fired. I just, I really didn't I don't think I fit in with the people that I was around anymore, which was sad, but it was like when you're in a bad relationship, you don't necessarily hate the other person or anything like that. Like the person you're with, you like as a person, you don't lack in loving, but it's not really working anymore, but you're kind of hoping that something will happen that kind of brings it about or and it's a codependency thing I have too, but like I was really in that phase for like 2 years of like I don't really feel right here anymore and I don't know what happened, but like, the axe was going to drop and corona virus was I think what did it. But I mean the reality is I wasn't I guess I just wasn't making people feel safe. And I think that's a very, at least for me, it's a very it's kind of a crazy thing. First of all, I don't think it's my responsibility to make anyone feel safe aside from myself. Um, and secondly, I feel like it's a delusion all the way around because I mean, a fucking plane could fall on me right now. I mean, like it
Yeah.
could really happen. I mean, you're not safe no matter where you are. And I don't really like operating that way. I
Yeah.
don't believe life's safe.
I think the most important thing, because I know a lot of people have really focused on how crappy this year was, but did you pull anything good out of it? Like, I mean, in that scenario, for instance, because like I feel like it's really, really hard, especially with like a creative and kind of positive energy like yourself, for instance. It's very hard. Like you feel the emotions around people that are around you. I do the same thing when I go into a store or something. It's really hard not to feel like, hey, you could cut that tension with a knife, but it's this everyone was looking for 2021 to be the year, the savior year, and I'm like, it's just another year. 2020 was just a year, but it just threw us in this weird influx, and we can forget it, whatever it is. It's probably gonna be in our history. I don't know how long this thing is gonna last, but it's a sense of like, find yourself. Like, that is one of the hardest things, and that was my New Year's resolution, was trying to find myself. It's the easiest thing and also the most hardest, because it could hit me right now or it could never hit me. And I love that fascinating aspect to it, because it's always going to keep me striving to try and find of what that is.
Well, I mean, to answer your question, I think everything was good about 2020, honestly. Like, I getting fired wasn't even a negative. I feel like I needed to be introspective, and I feel like that was the thing that I needed to happen to me to get me in that place, and to see the players in my life and to understand how to rebalance and refocus. So it wasn't a bad thing. And honestly, like, as much as it was weird, um, I we didn't struggle. Our family didn't struggle. Like, there's a lot of panic. There's a lot of latent noise that's happening, and I think that's why I have this like kind of buzz, that adrenaline that's just in me. It's just because there's like this energy that's very chaotic around, that I feel, just because I think I'm empathetic. But nothing was bad. I think it was actually really good. And I honestly think that a lot of the questions that came up during 2020, or the evaluations or the ahas, I'm really happy were had. I don't know why they weren't had before. I don't know what people were. That was the biggest thing. I don't know what people were doing, because I feel like I found myself right away. And maybe it was just because I've always had art. Um, I feel like I'm finding myself more and more in terms of my voice, and how I am to other people, um, moving forward. But in the beginning, I feel like I really understood who I was and what I wanted. And for all of 2020 to happen was kind of like, what have all you assholes been doing? Like, what have you been doing? I have been living intently my whole, like, this is why I'm here. I'm where I want to be. I don't understand all of this shit that's happening with all the rest of you, because obviously you weren't living in alignment with anything that was authentic for you, or you were trying to please a bunch of people outside of you. I wasn't doing that. I literally had a moment in my life where I told the core people of my life, my family, the constructors, the architects of like the little Amy. At one point in my life, I walked away from them and I said, I'd rather be homeless than to deal with another bit of what you need me to be and need me to do. And they put me into mental ward for a while, and then I spent a long time in therapy and all of this stuff. So I've I don't know if, I mean, I can't imagine that a lot of people have done that. But that was my story. And so I've been living that truth ever since. And I think when you kind of break the shackles of your own expectations of like your family, and when they stop measuring you by what they can inundate you with, and you really say fervently, like, fuck no, dude, I am what I am. I'm capable. I might not be capable in the way that you perceive me to be, but I know that I'm worth something, and I know I'm going to make something of myself whether you approve of it or not. I already did that, and I've been living that life ever since. And so for me, it was not, when this happened, I was I was inundated with people like right away that proved not to really be my friends, but they're like my friends on like social media. And they were like, it was so weird. They were like, you need to care about other people. And I was like, wait a minute, I do care about other people. Like, the entire perspectives of my life has been trying to figure out what I am in relationship to everybody else, and try to give birth to this kind of environment where everybody can be who they are. And I genuinely live my life kind of understanding my own capacity and understanding what not to do and what to do. And I don't really go into things, you know, strongly unless I know that I'm willing to commit, I'm willing to be dedicated. Otherwise, I say no because I don't want to disappoint anybody. I don't want to disappoint myself. I don't want, so I kind of regulate myself. I had my tubes tied when I was 30. I don't want to be a mom. Like that's a big thing.
Yeah, we talked about
Like
this a lot on your first episode, but like, I mean,
yeah, like
I remember,
there,
I remember like, you were telling me everything about like the mental stuff too. And I think it comes from a
yeah.
point of how many people in life are running off a blueprint and everyone's following that same blueprint. And you talk about people seem like they're just waking up now. People like you, people like, that have a sense with their emotions and stuff, they know they're already up. They're already at the level that everyone is trying to perceive and get to 24/7. This whole world with this cancel culture, all this type of stuff, some parts it's good, but it's drawn the line to where I feel like it's now doing the opposite of what it was intended to do. People
Oh
saying,
yeah.
like when they go to a comedy show or something, like, I laughed at that blank comedian, I laughed at that female comic. Back in the day when I saw a comedian that was funny, I laughed, no matter if it was a male or a female. And the fact that now that people are going, "Look how woke I am, I laughed at a female comic." You think that's better? That's not better at all. It's like we're creating this, there's just this manuscript that people want you to fit in a certain peg, in a certain system. And that's why I think 2020 was this crazy thing, because it popped people out of that peg position and you realized how simulated you have become. I mean, there's one song for some reason that this year just rings hard with me with, and it's like, oh God, "My Own Worst Enemy." You ever hear that song before? Where I
I
came in through,
probably have,
if I
but
sing it,
I
if I sing it, I think YouTube is going to take me down, but it's like, "I came in through the window last night," and it's like, "And you're
oh
gone."
no, I've heard it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
song is like how many people their true self has left, and they're sitting there now realizing that everything they've wanted to do, everything they've done, they've just been on a fucking lull. I mean, just like I literally have been recounting it, and I was talking to my brother. I recently reconnected with him. Me and him are chatting back and forth. He goes, "Dude, time is flying by so fast." He goes, "And when you have kids, you don't know how fast it fucking goes." And I'm just like, "Dude, it's going fast for everybody right now." I think it's. Here's my theory. For instance, I thought whenever you're having fun, time flies, like they say. I figured everybody's staying at home on social media, doing whatever the hell they do on their phones and stuff. That time is just going by quick as shit because now the world's all getting in sync with everybody just lulling through everything. But it's so hard because next thing you know, like we're already coming towards February. And it was just the new year not even too long ago. And it's like it's going by so quick. And if you blink, it will be gone in a minute. So I've been trying to embrace a lot of things that I've been missing out on, which is like walking outside, enjoying a cool air, looking up at the stars at night and trying to figure out what, like, just make myself as small as possible, make myself so unimportant in the grand scheme of things to where my problems aren't problems anymore, because in the grand picture of everything, they're so small that it's not going to bother anything else out there. It just relieves so much anxiety to know that, like, there
Oh,
could be
good.
aliens, there could be there's exoplanets and things I don't even know about, even talking about, and it's out there. I'm like, it's way bigger than me. So why am I fucking worried about a job I wasn't happy in? You know what I mean?
Now, do you feel like your depression comes from a point of anxiety or worry?
My depression comes from a multitude of factors, but probably the main one is a sense of worth. I'm always looking for the opportunity to make someone else better than me or make a position of where I can push someone up higher. Like I look at, like, I mean, that comes from, like, we talked about how I got into the gym, everything was from bullying, for instance. I had
Yeah.
a just natural low self-worth because at every moment I would turn to someone to talk to, it was nobody was there, whether parents were working, whether it was just a disconnect. So I learned to balance a lot with my own thoughts, and that kind of helps you watch more than actually speaking, I guess. And eventually I just picked up so much information where I like my brain's like a sponge right now to every conversation I have.
Do you do you think it's like, to quantify it, like you seek to inspire others?
I
Because I know
really
that's me. I would love to be the type of person that's inspiring. But I do feel like I have to be inspired in order to be that person. So it's like a cyclical thing that, like, if you if, like, because I get depressed too. um but if you kind of bow to that monster, if you will, or that dark place, and you kind of let it take over, it becomes a cyclical point of itself, and then you realize that you're not inspiring anybody, you're not even willing yourself out of bed. So I feel like the things that I really yearn for in life, and that's kind of what my 2021 is kind of about, is like, I realized that I needed to hone some things that I feel like are really deficient about myself. Like, I have a podcast, we met through podcasting and stuff like that, but I talk too much, and I know I talk too much. I mean, to
that's
call
kind of
what
a
I do.
podcast.
Well, I know, but I framed it around the idea of interviewing people, and I tend to railroad and hijack the conversation. And I think it's a point of nervousness. I think it's a point of, like, excitement and passion. But I also am disappointed in myself that I keep doing it. And I'm also realizing too that there's a lot of things in an analysis of my family and family dynamics, that certain things happen within my family that I don't really appreciate. And I'm reflecting on how much of that I've absorbed and how much I do that. For instance, my mom is always like, she does these power plays, but she doesn't realize she does them. She'll say things that kind of either are inappropriate or jarring or just candid, like that, she just truly feels, or that she truly thinks, and she's just open about it, but it's kind of inappropriate, which I love. I mean, I grew up around it, so it's natural to me.
Yeah.
But, like, what she expects is somebody to correct her or to confront her or to say something if they don't approve. And most people won't do that. Most people outside of the people who care about you, love you, are not going to engage you that way. And I do it too. Like, I do it too. And what I expect is people to use their words and say, like, look, dude, if we're still using our words, we're not really at odds. We're still trying to figure each other out. Like, once it gets to a point where we're hitting each other in the face, then we're at war. Then it's really bad. Then we have a true conflict. But when we're still using words, I don't get the violence there. And that's the biggest thing that I don't like about this new time period, is how many people um, perceive such immense violence from words, and and jump to assumptions about people instead of doing what I feel like is the hard work. It's the right work. It's the work that, if you want change and you really want to connect with people, you have to do. You have to be there in an uncomfortable place, and you have to break things down really, really small, and be like, and you have to do a lot of mirroring techniques. And you got to say, look, this is what you said. This is how I took it. Is that what you meant? Because that's what I heard. And then give that person the opportunity to explain. But that kind of back and forth is hard, and it takes time. And we're in such a quick gratification mode. Like, we're watching clips that are like 30 seconds, that nobody takes the time to really make those connections. And I don't know. I expect, or I want people to do that, but the reality is that nobody cares enough to do that about me, like with me. Like nobody's genuinely gonna care about, I mean, but that's the
I won't
premise of
do
your
all the
podcast.
mirror techniques and stuff, but I'll be more than happy. It's just open communication. See, the thing is when we rely so much on technology now, and that is the worst form of communication. If you've ever sent a text to anybody and they've gotten the wrong, I just had it happen not even too long ago. I mean,
I mean, it happened with you and me just now. You were like, I need your email. And I was like, I was looking through all my email and I was expecting it. And I was like thinking, does he have my email? And then you texted me, it was like, hey, I need your email. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I didn't, I didn't pick that up. Like,
it's there's so much that gets like even through a text. Like I had someone, he's a vegan guy, and we were talking about gas pollution and stuff. And I'm like, I don't think it's just one thing. It's not just animal farts. There's a link to a bunch of other stuff, but that is an issue. And then like just by saying ha ha or something like that can be portrayed as being like you're conveying like that you know more than me or something like that. And I'm like, see, this is the issue. If we're talking, this wouldn't be happening, but we rely on social media. Fucking Twitter is like everyone's talk chat room now. I'm like, no, 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 no. I even posted this on Twitter. I said, Twitter is worse than American Idol. Instead of having 3 judges in 5 minutes to prove yourself, you have a billion people and 180 characters. It doesn't make any sense. It's good for if you use it in the right way. Like I know people that make their social media positive and stuff, but that positivity is clouded behind the real emotion, which is negativity, which is the aspect of if you stop favoring my stuff, if you stop liking my stuff, if you stop doing all these things that show that you are paying attention to me, I will turn on you and I will bite you. This is not a world that I don't think 100 years ago they would have ever thought that technology would have hit this point where we're able to do the things we can now. And it probably will be a downfall of a lot of issues in society today. But I think there's a way, like you saw during the coronavirus when it first started, everyone was really, really caring. It was like, holy shit, half the people we know are going to die. And there was a point where
I'm glad that you got the caring aspect. I did not.
there
But
was there was a lot of people, at least down here, that were like, I need to go to the store for the old people. I need to do this and you do that. And I was like, everyone's like, it's a new world. It's gonna be a great new thing. I'm like, it's gonna last 2 fucking weeks. Two
yeah.
fucking weeks. It
Well,
lasted.
I I probably got what I got because of what I was putting out there, because I was looking at the science. The science was that my demographic of personages, wouldn't be affected. That and not to say, and I had parents that were still working within that were in a demographic of people that were high risk, and they kept working. And so that was my, not only the ethics of my family, but also it makes sense to me that you don't take the people, the players out that are the actual revenue producers, and then say, okay, like, you don't take them out of the mix. You keep them working so that they can then provide for the elderly and the things like that. Because the way I saw it, I was thinking a couple clicks down the road where we're feeling more of that now. And I don't think a lot of people know the economy well enough to know that, like, all our Federal Reserve is going to do is print money. And what that ends up doing is create a further disparity between the rich and the poor. It doesn't make more money. It waters down our dollar, and it will eventually, if we do it enough, will crash our dollar, which happens to be a Federal Reserve currency that is used throughout the world.
Do you
And there is a huge link to this when it comes to world politics and world control. And the beautiful thing about America is that we emancipated ourselves from tyranny to have freedom. And for me, I was looking, if there was a curve that I felt I needed to flatten, it was the financial one that was coming down the pipeline due to this virus. So there was no reason for me to stop working. One, I'm a tattoo artist. My clients are healthy. Not only that, but I work in a private studio. Well, I did work. I did work in a private studio that had controlled access. Nobody could come in the door unless they had an appointment. And it was in an industrial space. It wasn't even on a main strip. Now, I wasn't everyone, but I was somebody of a distinct place in life where, and in Maryland, there's no license for tattooing.
You're in
So
Maryland too?
yeah, yeah.
Why have I not come to you to get a tattoo yet? What the hell?
Well, you can. I have a new studio, so you can come.
I want an eagle
Yeah,
fighting a dragon on my arm.
I dig it. I love it. I love it. But yeah, like I and then I was chastised for it. I was chastised for that opinion, and everybody called me political, and I said, "This isn't politics. This is basic economics. This is just rational chess. While all of you are playing checkers, I'm playing chess. I'm sorry that you don't get it or that you're only stuck in this one move. I'm thinking about five ahead." and
Yeah.
and I have the product of my parents who have kept me very, very knowledgeable about these things and talk to me about these things to know that this is coming. And I did not want to stop work. And it's illegal for a governor to tell us to stop work. He's supposed to protect us against federal insertion, and he's supposed to protect the people and protect their very being, which means that they facilitate their work. So, okay, they're not dying of coronavirus, but how many people have died of depression or fallen further into addiction? Or, like my mother, have a hiatal hernia that she had to wait a year just to get a doctor to see her and operate her. She had to deal with the fact that not only her stomach was in her chest, but her colon as well. And she was still working during this
Could she go to the
because
bathroom when that happened?
no, she would violently throw up and then feel like a knife was stabbing her in the chest all day. And she's in her 60s. So if that isn't a extenuating circumstance, I don't know what is. But she kept going to work because she's like, I'll be goddamned if I worked my whole life to provide an America for my kids to live in and to stop now. She's like, I'm not doing that. And she even said too, she was like, I'd rather die sooner in the company of my family than in some fucking hospital with no advocates, denied access from my family. The way that they're doing this is so abysmal for your last hours. The fact that people are dying alone in places with nobody there to advocate for them is, she's like, that is the most horrendous thing. If you have ever seen a person die, you would realize that that is the worst thing you could do to a person, is to deny them their family in their final hours. And that was my ethics. So I was attacked right away when corona started because those were my ethics. And I thought I had been vocal enough about who I was before that for it not to be like that, but I had so many friends be like, that's it, no more, we're not friends. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then I had people being like, well, you just need to, understand that people believe differently. And I said, oh no, I thoroughly understand that. I was like, you guys thought I agreed with you? I never agreed with you. I worked with you. That's the point. I always work with you. It wasn't essential that we agreed. That's not the point. The point is that we found out a way to work together. We rallied behind our differences. Now it's this whole thing that we all have to fucking agree the same. And I'm like,
Because you
well,
understand how
that's
hard
not
it
going to
is.
happen.
Do you understand how hard it is for people to be in a room with other people that don't agree with them when it's so easy to cut them out? It's an issue that I have first of all, when it comes down to politics, this is the weirdest freaking thing. I don't think anybody has ever gotten into more arguments and unfollowed more people or just lost relationships over politics. The scariest thing to me was when everyone was like, finally, like I can sleep. We have a new president. I was like, when the fuck is anything he's going to do affect your life? You're still going to work tomorrow. You're still going to have to bring home money to pay your bills. He's not affecting any of that. He might do something that might affect prices of some stuff, but you're still got to get up yourself, go to bed, do all these other types of things you have to do to get your life going. Okay. So it's not going to immediately hurt you in a way that's really going to
Right.
drastically change.
I
But
agree with you.
the same fact, everybody is so ready to take out someone that doesn't agree with them. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand when did we stop letting other people that disagree with us change or just change our feelings about them. I have friends I don't
Well,
agree with. I
for
like
me,
having that perspective there.
it started. This all started when we convoluted the nature of war. When we started making war seem something other than what it was. War is not good. It's not awesome. It's about going over, decimating, seizing, and claiming ours. The minute we made it be like, oh, it's not just the oil that we want or their assets. We're building them roads. We care about their women. We care. No, that's not war. War is war. And the minute that you try to make it something other than what it is, that's when people start being in their heads and trying to make everything all flowery that isn't flowery. Human beings throughout our history, we have decimated natural species. We're like a plague on the planet. Yes, we have come into America and in certain other affluent countries to the idea or to the understanding that we can we can help stop it a little bit, and we can think about the things we can do, but that's only when you get to a certain level of survival. When you're not at a certain level of survival, man, you're taking out whatever you can eat, whatever you can drink, whatever you can feed your kids with, whatever works. And that's more potent in other countries than it ever is here. And I feel like America is this place where, I feel like it was good too, because like we were doing we were doing dealings with a lot of countries that way, where we were kind of taking what we could get and then we were profiting off of it, and then we were inflating people's heads that this is all nice, this can all be nice, that you can live and not affect things, and you can be better than your human condition. We're not better than that. We're blind. We're actually blind to it. We've been cut off from a lot of realities that actually exist in other places. I mean, if you think about it, we're like the only place that I see that really, really, really is dedicated to a kind of a gross level of stopping the violence for children. And it's gotten gross. I mean, first of all, how many goddamn fucking parties do you have to go to when somebody's going to be pregnant and having a kid? Like now there's like the baby
A
shower, the
lot.
gender reveal, the fucking sprinkle if you're having a second one. It's like the most, for me, the most nauseating thing ever. I'm just like, people are literally doing this all over the place, and not only are they not able to stop the violence of their children, but if their kid goes missing, unlike here where we're like inflated because you have to wait 72 hours before you can actually get somebody to feel, your
Yeah.
kid's missing. They're like, well, I might as well pop out another because that kid's gone. That kid's not coming back. Like as soon as they're lost or they're gone, they're fucking gone, because they probably have been stolen, killed, sold, blinded, put into some other kind of thing. They are gone. Like in this country is the only country where we're like, how do we keep our kids safe? In other countries, it's like, I'm just trying to feed the things that I have. I'm just trying to keep my life
Jesus,
going.
Amy. Good
I'm
God.
just saying. Like, I'm just saying.
So
Like
that
here in America,
got
like
deep
I
quick.
feel I'm just saying, like, I'm not getting political here. This
I
is
know,
just
and
the
that's not what I'm
reality.
saying. That deep doesn't mean political. Deep, look. I worked at a hotel, so I know what sex trafficking is and stuff. I thought
I know.
I disregarded those meetings until I started realizing, oh, holy shit, this is an actual like problem that does occur like a lot, and it,
A lot.
it's really really difficult because when you look at another perspective of another place that might not care as much about kids or might not care as much as about that, it's a whole idea of morals too. Our morals are based on where we're from and we learn
Well,
from the
they don't
environment that we've created.
they don't care about their people. And that's what became political about this, is that I don't
Amer-
know how many times we got to run the socialist paradigm to realize that it doesn't work.
I mean,
It's been
America,
tried a
I
lot.
I wouldn't say America cares about their people. I wouldn't say even the people in any country or any place in the world really truly cares
Oh,
about their
hun,
people.
they care far more.
That might be
We
true, they care far more, but the idea that man has actually cared about man, depending it'd have to be a small tribe in like Africa somewhere there where they actually still care about each other because we've been so disconnected with these walls we built up around us. We've totally lost this sense of empathy in the world. We talk about people being empaths. That's not supposed to be a rare thing. That's not supposed to be something that's like, oh, this person has it. Everyone's naturally has that, but everyone's neglected it for so fucking long. No one can get in touch
not
with it
everyone,
anymore. Well, not
not everyone.
everyone, a generalization of most of the population in the world, at least that I've come in contact with, wouldn't give two shits about you if I offered you $1 billion and said you could have $1 billion or someone in the world would die. Most of and I'll even admit, most of the time people are going to say, hey, I'll take the fucking $1 billion if a random person dies. It's taken me probably a few years now to realize that that does not mean as much as a human life is. When you realize a 30-year-old person that can get hit by a car is gone forever, that whole life, that mother, that father that raised that kid or whatever, that kid's life, 30 years is wiped like that. That fucking $1 billion doesn't even come close to the matter of a fact of a human life. And it's taken me a long time to fucking get there. So I'm guessing most of the population's like random person, fucking $1 billion, $1 billion, man, $1 billion.
Well, um, is there a possibility that I can go to the bathroom real quick?
Yes.
But see, that comes down to consciousness, right? Because what if I'm telling you that you sitting here right now and having a podcast is killing somebody else in another country?
Then I probably would stop it, and I wouldn't be surprised because I have an extremely large following in Nicaragua. You mentioned to
That's
me about
awesome.
do I feel like I have the need to inspire people?
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and I did for a very long time, but I don't have the need to inspire anymore. I have the need to understand. I want to understand everybody's perspective in life and where they're coming from. Initially, when I first started this thing, I thought, how many times would it be cool to have a fucking statue built of me? Something egotistical like that. But once through doing this and talking with so many people, I've really kind of ruined myself in a way of I understand a lot more thoughts than I probably should for a person my age or for any person. You start to really narrow down the whole end point. It's what it gets me upset about people that want to do it like as a career, want to be like the next Joe Rogan or something. I want to be me and I want to do it how I want to do it and however the show wants to go. Because I truly, through talking with so many people, realize every individual person like yourself has this amazing spark that I can't get in a for not maybe not for you, but for most people, I can't get in a public store. I can't talk to them without them talking about, hey, did you see the Ravens play? I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the Ravens, dude. Tell me what you are interested in. Tell me what makes you get this conversation flowing, or I don't feel like I'm watching paint dry. I want to see your eyes light up. I want to
You
see you
want
get
that in the
passionate.
grocery store?
I don't care if we're by the fruit section. Let's do it. Talk about star fruit. I don't care.
I actually have a really nice man that I know at my grocery store who actually engages me a lot. I like him. I've met him outside of the grocery store. He works there. And every time I'm there, he wants to talk way too long. And the reason is like you can tell he really wants to have a connection, but I'm at the grocery store because I gotta get groceries.
Okay, maybe the example is like when I go to the grocery store, I actually want someone to say, "How is your day going?" and actually give a fuck if they say it. That's more on the concept of where I want people to be on that level. And I feel like the only time you can ever get that is when you realize to be right here, right now, and to understand that you actually like I only ask people that I give a shit about. And guess what? I give a shit about everyone, no matter if I just fucking met you. Because it's the whole aspect of like, why would I ask you that and walk away when I ask you? It doesn't make sense. You're wasting everybody's time. Just walk away then. You literally have to intently care for the idea that you
Well,
are looking for that response.
I care, but I only care about people that I've met, to be honest with you. Um, I I I think that is genuine and honest. Like if I don't know you, I can't care about you. Like, yeah, you're another person, but like, um, I don't care in a sense of like, how do I want to put it? I care that you breathe.
Yeah, you're not gonna
Um,
donate a kidney to me, but at the same time, you're
right. I
gonna.
mean, I don't know. I might donate a kidney to you. I've met you.
Well, I mean,
What I'm
bro, if
saying
we
is,
haven't met before,
I mean, I might judge you a little bit because you're kind of affecting your kidneys right now with your bourbon, but like, I might be like, hey, are you going to keep drinking like that? Because I'm not giving up a kidney if you're going to keep drinking like that.
that's a good fucking point, man. I didn't even think of that perspective there. That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying,
There's
like,
all these
I,
other perspectives.
I'm just saying I can be honest about the fact that life happens, and nowhere within that was a promise that there wasn't going to be violence. I personally believe that duality is what creates beauty. That you don't understand or don't get anything unless you experience the light and the dark, the bad and the good, the pain and the relief. There is no concept of that without this dual thing, and within that creates such beauty. And I like them both. I mean, of course I don't love pain, but I'm a tattoo artist. So I actually use something that is very painful to create something really beautiful that is immensely cathartic for my clients, that they're really happy. Like, my clients come to me and say, I'm doing something for me today. Like, I'm gonna do something, and I'm gonna fall into what I want for the day, and I'm gonna, like, it's a really cool space of where they're allowing themselves to feel a pain for something that they ultimately want to wear forever, and encounter the world with forever after that, because they need it on them. Whenever I tattoo people, people have literally said to me, I feel more like me than I did before I had this. Like, this helps me feel better about living my life. Like, because now I can encounter the world, and I can project the kind of image that I choose, that I want. I'm not victim to my experience. And yeah, it comes from a place of biodysmorphia and things like that, anxiety, a lack of feeling like you can communicate. Um, but to play with an artist and to experience pain in a way where you get something from it that is yours, that you cultivated with a creative and created something that now you're wearing, and the whole world gets to see you through this. I mean, you're changed forever after that. And it's really cool. And it's really cool to be a part of that with people on a regular basis, and to have long form conversations where I get to like meet people and understand where they're coming from. I hear a lot of sad songs because that's a lot of what people comment on, is like people that they've lost, people that they've experienced, animals that have meant a lot to them, um, getting married, another phase of life, a realization about who they are, all of it I get to experience with these people and create art through. And for me, you can't remove the violence. It's not possible. It's not possible. This world, what I feel is that we're all really soulful beings. We all go back to a source that is about energy and that isn't about these physical beings or bodies. I mean, this is my belief system. And I believe we're running a simulation. I believe that, like, Earth is meant to advance concepts, to advance the soul, so that you can play out this simulation and experience pain. And that's necessary. It's necessary for you to understand more about who you are as a soul, what you can give, what you can be, what you can enact, and how you can harness certain energies. And it brings about greater truths about the human condition. And I believe that we're able to run as many simulations as we want. And I also feel like the pain that we either have to experience or that we make ourselves experience, it's all choice. I feel like we all choose that pain and we all have the power to change that, because I believe before we enter into this simulation, we pick it. I truly believe that, for a reason that we probably are not even cognizant once we're here. It wouldn't be as effectual if it was cognizant once we're here. But I believe that like, for instance, kids that are born, I have a couple friends of mine that had children die young of leukemia. And I have a really good relationship with these parents because, one, I always recognize their children. We are able to talk about their children, and they're like, it's amazing because not a lot of people are able to talk with me about my kids or allow me to be affected by this. And I was like, oh my God, dude, like, I believe that your child was, I mean, I call it an angel, but I believe your kid came here with that purpose so that you could experience this and be a better person, honestly, because of it. Like, I feel like they yielded themselves to that, because in every child that I've met that have met that fate, they're like they're like larger than life. Like, their fucking being is like bigger than they are. Like, their laughs like ring. They're like little fucking angels. And I think it's meant to stir things up. I think it's meant to make you realize something that you were not paying attention to, and fix that attention. Like, it's about consciousness. And I feel like I always try to be as conscious as I can. I mean, I'm limited. I'm a human being and I only have such mental capacity. But I try to, and that's what I was saying before, I try to be really conscious of my boundaries, of my capacity, of the way that I interact with people, the time that I take, the way I love on them. I want every moment that if I die in any moment, I'm going to feel okay about that, because I know I did the best that I could do with every moment. And I gave as much as I could in that moment, but not to negate the fact that bad things happen, not to negate the fact that I'm going to die or that I'm going to get hurt or that people could potentially hurt me or any of these things. It doesn't stop me from having that motivation. Like, I don't stop just because this might be painful, either for myself or for them. Because that's the thing with the kids, going back to it. Look at kids, if you remove all bad things from them, do they learn how to take care of themselves? Do they learn how to do anything?
The
Do you
idea,
learn how to ride a bike without falling off of it?
yeah,
Like,
well, the idea you're talking about here is what a lot of people talk about. Like, people that seem to have some of the worst childhoods seem to have some of the worst lives turn out to be some of the greatest people that you ever really know. Mike Tyson, for
mhm,
instance,
yeah,
horrible life, but had turned into an amazing fighter. But you don't want everybody to experience a horrible life like Mike Tyson. Now, for me, for instance, I would not push away, or I believe when you suffer from something, you go through something severely traumatic that does, you get seasoning. It's like when you season a steak or something, you
yeah,
get
I
this
like
like,
that.
you get this
It's
look to
spicy.
you get to look at someone, you get to go like they've been through some shit. Like, that's it's the main reason why I don't talk to like younger people on the podcast, is because they really haven't had that seasoning yet. Very few have. And when you start to realize that, I think it's a lot like a chip that you get, like a sobriety trip, for instance. You get these little chips on top of you that mounts up. People call it luggage. I think that's a bad term for it. When you get those chips, you look at someone, would you want to push away any of those chips that turns you into the person that you are today? Because I believe that reality has turned you into the person that you were meant to be by giving you those hard times. Whether those scenarios were going to pop up, whether it was through a family incident or through something else that happened, it's gotten you to the person you are today. And at no moment in my life would I ever give back any of the painful things I went through. And I remember those experiences 100%. Times where I was scared, times where I was worried, times I was wondering and still wonder if I was something. When you realize what that does to you and what that makes you grow, when you can overcome that, you realize that people that go through the most smile the hardest because of the fact of they don't want people to see them in pain because they know what true pain is and they don't want anybody to know what that emotion feels like. And I believe that's a sense of being overwhelmed with reality. I think that's something everyone really needs in life. And, it changes people. You see, my buddy, for instance, he's like episode 40 something on here. Me and him went to school together. He was an alcohol guy, big drinking every single weekend, partying, smoking, like making bongs out of copper tubing in class and stuff. Then he got in a drunk car accident
Aw.
and he got his foot ripped off, he got his head cracked, he got a bunch of stuff, and I had him in my room talking to him on a podcast episode about how he's literally changed, where he's gone to school and give these drunk driving counseling meetings to all the kids down there and completely 180 in his life. And I asked him, I was like, "I know you regret that night because it weighs on you heavily because he lost his friend when he did it." But he said,
Oh, wow.
"It's really put me into a point where I've grown. And now I see him with a kid now, and I see him completely where I never thought I would see him again. And through this past 2020, I've lost 3 friends in a matter of a month. And on top of that, my grandmom got severely ill. So it was a lot of trauma in a short amount of time, and I was trying to overcome it. But the people that talk to me, the people that you realize are there to help you, everyone has the ability to reach out when someone is in need. There's so many incidences. The guy that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, for instance, one of the things that still kind of tears me up to this day because it had happened to me before, where he's crying on a bus and nobody asked him what's wrong and left him alone. Everybody nowadays, maybe not you or me, but for most people, when they see somebody crying or screaming on a bus, they're going to say that person's insane and want to try and keep their distance and try and stay away from them. How much is that person on the edge because they just got really bad news? And I had that happen when a woman was crying on a bus and I asked her what's wrong. And she just told me someone in her family just died. So I sat down with her and I talked to her, and it was a good, like, I think she missed her stop. I'm guarantee she missed her stop, but we talked for like a good 30, 45 minutes, and she really felt a lot better to where she was comfortable to actually go off and do her thing and, overcome whatever she did. I don't know where she's at now, but it was a sense of having empathy to a situation where most people would look at it like, just keep my distance, keep my head down. And that revolts down into what the world is like today in life, which is there are two types of people in this world. There are one who want to be left the fuck alone, and there are two, the other people that don't want to leave them the fuck alone. It's a very big issue because everyone's got to put input, and some people are just trying to make it through the next day. I had so many people during all of this say, "How could you not do this to this?" And they were just berating people online. And I'm like talking to these people, like, "Are you all right?" And they're like, why does the pressure have to fall on me? It's like there are people that are
Well,
just
it's your life. Who else is supposed to fall on?
well, if you're
Like,
blaming issues of racial
mhm.
issues or all that stuff with the statues and stuff on other people, expecting them that if they don't make a post about it, then they're part of the problem was the issue. Where I was telling them, I'm like, look, those people are just keeping their head down and trying their hardest not to stick a gun in their mouth and fucking blow their brains out because this world is so fucking dark and it's got a lot of light to it. It really does. And there's a lot of beauty in every aspect of it. But we don't look at that stuff. We're so on autopilot. We're so not paying attention to our true emotions inside of us, the inner light, I would say, like your mind's eye, whatever, which is why, like, every time I talk to someone who takes fucking psychedelics, they figured it out. They're like, it's tear down the fabrics of reality and I can see my true goal. I'm like, should everyone just take psychedelics? Like,
I've I've done them.
they
I've
fucking
never
help.
done enough. I've never done enough to see some of the things that some of my friends have seen. Um, the thing that the thing that I experienced with psychedelics, if you want to talk about that, is that it's unlike anything else. So um, for me, it's a lesson in control, and it's kind of confronting the fact that you really don't have any. And I don't know why I do this. It's probably because I've gotten stoned way more than I have done a trip. But I always like think to myself, this is going to be awesome. And I don't know why I do that. but you should not do that. Okay. Like, never do that, because you're setting yourself up for an expectation that, not that it won't happen, but that you don't, you don't control the trip. The trip controls you. And you're meant, I think it's good to maybe set an intention about what you might want to dig into and what you're trying to seek on this journey.
It
That's
points
what a
out all
lot
the
of people
it,
have said.
just like marijuana, it points out a lot of your bullshit, is what I would say. For instance, like when I every time I've ever gotten stoned, it showed me things that I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing. Like, oh, you're drinking too much of this. Your posture's not right. Oh, like you need to brush your teeth because you've been neglecting. It's like eventually you're just like, shut it the fuck down, man. I want to go to bed. And I think that's why I can't handle weed. I think it brings stuff to the forefront that I don't know if I'm ready to deal with. Not sense of like who I am, but more of a sense of like I'm trying in every aspect of my life to improve things. And a lot of the world's like, up, fuck you, and kind of putting a magnifying glass on top of me where I'm like, a lot of people don't want to
Weed
come
does
to
do that.
yeah, I don't I feel like a lot of people are afraid to look inside of themselves and try and find something because they're afraid of what that answer could be. And I know that sounds all mystical, whatever the hell it is. No, it's just an aspect of like you've been living a lie for so long, and next thing you know, you figure out that this is what you really want to do, that you've pushed it down so far that you don't know how to do it anymore. It's very, very scary. And I look at it like we're in the my definition of hell is the definition of a world that is lacking creativity. And that's what I'm seeing every single day, from a world that is so divisive, so built on technology, and where I don't see people truly expressing themselves in the way they should be expressing themselves. Not in the way that's going to hurt anybody's emotions, but in a way that an artist strikes a canvas. I don't see that a whole lot anymore. I like to enjoy those aspects of things. But when you when
Have
you
you
look at
done art?
have I done art?
Yeah.
And I don't like getting messy.
Oh, well, you do art without getting messy. I mean,
Want to
I
paint?
mean, there's lots of digital art. There's
Well,
lots of digital art.
I like the physical aspect of it. I mean, I've done stuff on the computer, like when it comes to like Adobe Paint or something, but like I like the physical aspect of stuff, but I always get fucking messy. When I'm drawing with a Sharpie or I'm writing with a Sharpie, I get Sharpie on my fingertips
Well, no, I
fucking
mean, but what
always.
about, well, what about paper cutouts and things like that?
That
Like,
sounds
they,
tasking.
yeah.
I don't like that's too time consuming.
I mean, I'm not saying it won't have labor involved. I'm
I
just
don't
saying
know.
that, like, so before you, what compromised me today before I could meet with you is I had an art day with a friend. And they're always amazing. That me and this friend, we don't agree on everything, and we don't have to. We really commune in that space, and she loves that that's the case. And she's like, dude, it would be boring if we agreed on everything. And I respect you highly. And, we both met in a space and did our own art, but we shared a moment, and the energy of that is so nice. And I guess to give you a little bit of like a, for instance, if you're cool with me kind of going on a story, but my aunt, she's been telling me for forever that she wants to write a book. And that's an art form. I mean, literary arts and things like that. And it's been years that she's been telling me that she wants to write a book. She's in her 70s. She is pretty much retired. She lives in this huge house, her and her wife. And like, there's literally no excuse to not write this book. Like, she has money, she has time, but yet there are so many things that get in the way of writing this book. And I can tell you why. Because art is not something that will feed you, will clothe you, will house you, but it is this thing that will feed your soul on a soulful level more than any of those things will. Those things only handle the physical aspect of your being, but art is what helps you figure out who you are and what you are and connect you to it. It connects you to yourself and how you register the world, and it lets you play. And it's not really justifiable because it doesn't have like beyond what you're able to create, which may or may not be awesome, because if you're just starting out, it probably won't be, but
I don't
it'll
paint,
be
but I
fun.
I understand literary art. I can't believe I'm gonna admit this on air, but write poetry.
That's
Get
awesome.
I get a lot of shit from some family members about it, but I've talked to a few spoken word artists before when it comes to the aspect of like the way I never truly thought I could write. Then I started trying to like, I was bullshitting through papers in school, which I didn't realize was an art form. And then I had read a poem called Those Winter Sundays by Robert Hayden Frost. And the
Yep.
imagery that invoked into my mind was something that books have never done to me before. And it really gave me a true grasp on life. I mean, even when I talk to you and you see me looking off in the distance over here, it's because I have a picture of Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night laying right over there that's not hung up, it's just sideways. And I love
Yeah.
analyzing that because that shows creativity flowing in a way where you can channel that into anything. If it's video games, if it's whatever it is. My cousin does shit in Minecraft I can't explain. It's like, this is better than the house. Can I actually live in this one? I want to rent in this house. And he's like, it's just a
Yeah.
video game. I'm like, I know. It's just
Yeah.
entertaining the idea of, you built this in a video game. It's fucking, that's your creativity. That's your genius and invokes into different ways. And I hear it from my uncle Trez that was on my podcast. You know,
Hmm.
he's a fellow tattoo artist. He's talking about, he goes, my kids are so different. I'm like, what do you mean your kids are so different? He goes, my one kid plays music and the other kid plays video games. And I'm looking at that, and there's about a 4-year gap in between both of them. Same as me and my brother. My brother plays music. I was always into video games. I'm like, it's the same shit. It's so crazy how the first one is different from the second one. You think it's going to be the same and it's completely different. There's stuff that makes them unique and there's stuff that makes them similar. It's so intense when you analyze that on a grand scale of things, of people. In so many ways, we're all connected, but in so many other ways,
Yeah.
we're all uniquely disconnected.
Well, yeah, but that's the point. That's what is awesome. But like, if I would just say that, like, if what your goal is this year is to find yourself and to figure out your purpose, I'd write a lot more. And that's kind of the advice that I gave my aunt, because I've seen her try to leave her house. Okay, her house is like immaculate. It's like her dachshund, when it drinks water, she has to wipe its mouth off because God forbid water gets on the floor. Like, that's how immaculate this house is.
Oh my God. Does she have
Right.
like plastic on the furniture and all?
She has layers of blankets so that the original furniture does not get I know. So, and everything is pristine. And so
That
if you
reminds
saw
me
my
too much of my family because we have a
right.
couch that is, I guess, from Rent-A-Center or something where I sat on it the other day and they're like, I got to put a blanket down. I'm still paying it off. I'm like, we've had this thing since I was 7. How long are we
I know,
fucking
like,
paying off a
what?
couch?
It's like, how long is it gonna take for us to own this thing that we
Like,
can finally sit on it?
are you putting $5 down a month? Jesus.
And that's the thing, is that, like, what I told her was, I was like, you'd probably have heart palpitations if you come in my house, because it's not that I'm dirty. It's just that it's not that pristine. And I said, there's a lot of selective neglect in my life, because I have to prioritize things that there is really no logic behind. I'm a professional creative. I make art for a living. And it's only through people liking my art that I'm able to do it for a living. But in order for me to get to that point, I had to make a lot of art that didn't produce any kind of income. It was just me. And I did it really for myself, I think. I did it because I love playing with my hands. And I also, I will say that as much as I was getting paid for it in money, I was getting paid for it in intention. So people were like, "Oh my God, you're such a good artist. I love that you're a good artist." And I was like, "Oh shit, like, this is
Admiration.
something." Yeah, this is something. I was inspiring people. I was invoking something out of them that made me feel good, that made them feel good, and made me feel connected to a world that I really didn't feel connected to in many other ways that potently. So, but when you want to write a book or you want to write something like that, there is that final product, but you don't focus on the product. You have to fall in love with the process. You have to fall in love with writing. You have to fall in love with that. Needs to be a thing that every single day is non-negotiable. Yeah, it's not going to feed you, not now. It's not going to clothe you, not now. It's not going to house you, not now. But it's something that if you ultimately want it to get there, you got to start doing it, and you've got to start making it. It's like working out. Like, you start with 15 minutes, like you say, like I need to start working out. Do you bust your ass and go, I'm going to do 2 hours every day and I'm going to be like, no, maybe you.
It's kind of what
But
I did.
okay, well, I mean, you're young still, so my body would be like, bitch, please.
I
I'd
just I
I'd
just think
I'd
I'm
be
invincible to overtraining. That's
I
definitely
would
caught
be
up.
well, see, I would be so sore the next day that I would defeat myself before I got started. So that's the point too, is that like if you if you don't agree to like 15 minutes a day, I'm going to commit, or 15 minutes every other day, I'm going to commit to just writing, not anything in particular, just writing and making that a habit. Eventually you're gonna kind of understand how your mind goes, and then you maybe can up it up to a half hour and to this. But if you overdo it, you kind of damn yourself before you get started, because then you start negotiating in your own head. You're like, well, I agreed to do 15 minutes yesterday, but I did an hour, so now I don't have to write for the rest of the week. And then that becomes a thing that like doesn't ingrain the habit. And really what you're trying to do is fall in love with the process. You're trying to make this non-negotiable time. You're trying to work this up to a level of your life of importance that now I can justify spending almost a whole day, if not 2 days, just fucking drawing, dude. Like I resent having to pee. I resent having to eat when those are my days. Like I barely think about the physical needs I have to do. And on top of that, I'm allowed to do it because I'm able to make enough money to feed, clothes, and house myself as a product of that time that before, if I hadn't drilled it over and over and over and over again and fell in love with just fucking doing it, I wouldn't be here. I couldn't make money making art, but I had to fall in love with that. And so whenever somebody comes to me and they want to be a tattoo artist and I don't see a passion of doing art, I don't see, the product of, years of drilling. I want to see portfolios filled with art. I want to see that you have put yourself out there as an artist in so many different ways, that you have been working and working and working at this. I want to see drilling. I want to see you making art. I don't care if you're not making money at it anyway, yet, because that's what I'm there to teach, is that, and to help people do that and give them that confidence. But I want to see them making art. And whenever I have like parents that are like, "Oh, my kid, they really like tattoo culture. How can I get them in tattooing?" I was like, "No. No, first of all, I don't want to talk to you about that. If your kid is interested in tattooing, they need to be talking to me. That would show me that they're involved. One. Two, they're not ready. You don't want your kid to be ready for the tattoo world yet. You want them to be a kid longer. Believe me. Have them draw. Get them a shit ton of art supplies. Feed them everything they can do artistically and see where that goes, because they're just thinking about what they can do right now with this art. They need to be a kid, they need to be drilling, they need to be fucking making art. Tell them to make art. And once they know that they want to be a tattoo artist, they'll be fucking knocking at my door. But you don't do that for them. You can't prepare them for that. All you can do is give them art supplies and see what they do with that. But there is nothing that you can do to get them to be a tattoo artist. They have to want that.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a
and,
good
and
perspective for
that's,
people to go to. It's just the aspect of if you really want it, you go after it. It's like people always
yeah.
set this, like, for instance, the resolutions for everybody is always weightlifting or it's always doing something to lose weight or something. I'm like, but do you really want to do that? Like, If you really want to do that, then don't make it a resolution. If you really want to do that, then wait a couple of weeks. So then you're not confined to the idea that it's got to be a resolution. You're actually doing it for yourself. It's
Yeah.
this whole aspect of things. I believe everybody has a certain thing that they're passionate about, a certain thing that just lets them go into this whole escape from whatever we call reality. But how many people know what that is? I don't know if I've truly found that yet. I mean, I consider podcasting a form of therapy only on the concept of I have a lot of episodes. So I obviously need a lot of it. But it's gone from weightlifting to something else to something else. I don't know what it's going to be like in 10 years. It's this whole aspect of like trying to find where you feel like you belong and where you fit is one of the toughest questions in life. And I believe that's why people are afraid to look inside of themselves. With psychedelics, for instance, I'm not a big proprietor of it, but the idea that it's going to show you things that you might not be ready to see. This world has this idea of instilling into you, which is like the opposite of what it means to be a creative, which is like you need to get a nice 9 to 5 job and you need to get this done. You need to pay the bills. You need to do whatever's going to make sure you got food on the table. That is important, but at the same time, not losing yourself. I mean, I watched my cousin break up from his fiance where they were doing private jets and going like to $10,000 dinners and stuff. Come live with me in my small little
What
home.
food?
I-
What food is $10,000?
They used to go to like these. They used to go to these like 5-star like restaurants and stuff where like like Gordon Ramsay chef style stuff where like a famous chef would cook up and then great gold on top of it and shit. Um, but he
So they
left
can
that.
scoop gold?
Yeah, I guess. I
All right.
don't ask me. Dude, I'm a $2 spender, can of tuna, and I'm good.
I'm
Um,
sorry, I just had to ask. I mean, if you're grading gold on it, I could see it being worth a lot. But they broke up. I want to hear the story.
he broke up with her, and then he moved in with us for a year. Now he's my long lost cousin. He's been on the show before. But I was talking to him. I was like, "How do you give that up, man? You were set for life. She's hot. You guys dating. You guys are gonna get married." He goes, "I wasn't happy," and I'm like, "Bruh, with a McLaren, you can be fucking happy." He goes, "No, you
Well,
can't,
maybe
Robbie."
you could be. You could
Well,
be.
he
Maybe.
this is
But
me.
I
This was
I
it was me back in the day. I'm finish my story.
go ahead.
He moved in. Then I had to watch this guy go from spending $50 like it's nothing to ordering a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts that comes out to 8.75 and him not have cash for it. I go, "You got a budget, son." Watching that whole shift of him working waiter gigs and all these things, making money just to be able to afford rent, just to be able to do this. I'm like, "It's different, isn't it?" He goes, "Yeah, but I wouldn't trade it back because actually I feel more happy doing this than I did when I had everything given to me." He goes, "When there's
Mhm.
an aspect of it's fun for a while, but then you really start to look inside of yourself when you hit a certain age and want to know what that end goal is. I don't want to be 30 or 40 when I'm trying to find myself. I want to do that now. People consider you being in your 20s your party age. Fuck that. I'll party when I figured out what that is because I want to be in a sense of complacent. I want to be comfortable. I want to be knowing that I'm never going to have to struggle like I
Oh,
had watched people struggle
oh,
before me.
be careful, Robbie.
What?
Um, because it's like I said, you you can't. I feel like when you get, I think to say comfortable, I feel like that should be always on a moving scale. I feel like
My
I
comfortability level is the no, I wouldn't. It's not normal for average people. I consider my goal so far ahead of anything that is impossible for me to reach because I'll never stop striving to hit that thing.
well, I mean, I think you're doing yourself a discredit there, because I totally believe that whatever you're dreaming about, you can make. That I don't have to know you a lot to even know that because I just know what the human capabilities are, and I know that um, it's like, for instance, if somebody's getting a first tattoo, and they tell me I I only have this budget, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, you're 18. Like, how much of a budget can you really have? Like, um, and I'm like, look, and then they want to put it on a place where I know I know they're going to outgrow that tattoo. I know they are, but they're so, so excited to get this tattoo. And they're like, yeah, it's going to be everything, because in their mind, they've chalked this up to a moment. They've been dreaming about getting a tattoo because that means they're an adult. It means they can make their own decisions. They can claim their body as their own. Like, it means all these things, but they're not thinking about the fact that one day their budget then is gonna like have tenfold, like it's gonna be 10 times that much, and it's still not gonna be what they want it to be, but they're gonna have a much bigger budget. And more than that, they might pick a completely different tattoo because they're a completely different human who have experienced now life through other lenses. And then they look at this tattoo they got when they were 18 and they're like, I don't hate it, but it's not me anymore. And it doesn't reflect what I am anymore. It doesn't reflect what I'm capable of anymore. I mean, I don't mind it.
Go back to what you said. That was beautiful. That tattoo is
Yeah.
not me anymore. That explains me
Yeah.
perfectly with a tattoo. My perspective is always evolving. Where I'm like, if I get a fucking tattoo now, what's it going to be like 10 episodes from now? Shit.
That's what I'm saying. Like, believe me, the way I work my process, if you got tattooed by me, I'd put you through the ringer. I don't just do whatever people want. I
Okay.
really make them go through it, and
What's the
I
ringer?
really
Come on, put me through the ringer. What is it? I'm really
right.
I want to get one, but I want something that's going to mean like for instance, my best friend.
Why do you want the hawk and the dragon,
That
or
was
the
just
eagle and the dragon?
I wouldn't want that. What I would
Okay, okay,
want, I thought about this, two ideas. One, I want
okay,
a stag, like the
okay.
head of a
I
stag.
like that. I
But
can see that on you, honestly.
I want it on my chest to where the face is pointed like this way towards my shoulder. But
Uh
as
huh.
the antlers go up, it's going to go up a little bit up my neck, a tiny bit, not too far up. But as
Uh huh.
there's these little leaves that are falling off of it, and that's going to be
Oh,
drifting
I
a little
like
bit
that.
towards across my chest a little bit. I was going to get that,
Why?
or because the stag's noble, it's an elegant creature, it's majestic as fuck.
What's
Really,
your? Well,
it's a sense of
I know, but
nobleness,
like,
I would say.
what brought this image to your mind? I'm just curious. I mean, yeah, you're saying all these nobility things, but is it because you want to have more of those qualities about yourself, or it's because you are identifying with those qualities
I consider
personally?
identifying them because I consider I have a sense of loyalty about me where I would take a bullet for any random person in the street on a sense of I believe that I don't know that I think that's just in my eyes, I look at everybody as on the same playing field and that the fact that I like everyone, it takes a lot for me to not like somebody. So the idea that I would put myself on the line for someone is a sense of nobleness with me where I feel like I do have that loyalty, that trust that I do ingrain with people. But at the same time, I was Googling like my family crest and stuff. And I was like, I like these Celtic images. And then I started going through and I found a stag and I was like, holy shit.
I like the stag idea. I see that on you. But what's the second one?
My best friend, was on my first episode. He's probably heard me talk about it. He's probably going to punch me if I mention it again. But his brother had passed away from a opioid addiction.
Hmm.
And I was there with him, and he, on my birthday one night, was like, "Hey," he goes, "I might have lost a brother, but I gained a brother." And I was like, fuck, you're gonna make me cry." And it was just
Hmm.
this aspect of like, we should get a tattoo that we both can kind of symbolize. Cause like my brother, he's my half brother. He has a side of his family where everyone that's a guy on that family has the same family tattoo crest. And I'm like, I want to start that and not just be blood family, be my family that I consider my family, which is my best friend, you know?
No, I think you should get both. I don't think it should be a one or the other. I like both. They sound like two different ideas. One's about you and one's about your connection with someone else. Um,
Can I get like a
and
little
I'm
I'll be the big cub on my arm and he'll be the little cub. So it's like big cub, little cub.
I like it. I like it. I
That's
mean, I think
terrible.
that's
Don't agree
awesome.
to that. No, that's terrible.
Hey man, I mean, it's a very endearing tattoo. Like it in itself, um, it symbolizes something that is very integral and is something that like you said, don't make me cry, bro. Like that's showing a part of you. Like, like, so if it's like that, I mean, might affect your masculinity a little bit, but that's the point, right? Like, you're not all that. You're not all masculine. You're not all you
You
have a
can't
soft side.
smell the seeping testosterone that's coming off my body right now.
If even if I could, it probably wouldn't attract me, to be honest with you. I like people that are that are willing to share that soft side. Like it's the vulnerability that's awesome, like that's what you've been talking about, is that you're like, why don't people be vulnerable? Why don't people connect? Why don't people, show more of themselves? The truth is they're terrified. That's the truth, is that they're literally terrified that if they're truly seen, that that they'll be shunned,
Well, why would
that
you?
they won't,
The biggest
you
question
know
to me that I think my dad said to me a long time ago was when it was like a really rough night when I was young, and he was kind of like sitting, beside me, and he was just like, I don't ever want there to be a time where you have to feel like you have to deny your emotions. It was a rough time. And like as in the family, at least we had like, some family deaths. And it was like, all right,
that's
like,
good dad territory right there.
and it's just like, you got to understand that you can't deny those emotions when they happen. He goes, I'm older. And he goes, and my dad's side of the family, they're from Baltimore, but they're all from like never like my grandfather didn't know what a hug was until I was born. Like my dad, first time he ever hugged him. And it was like this whole sense of like, as I was coming in, I saw a different side of them. And he was like, I always want that open communication. I think that should be like that with everything, with your friends, your family,
Yeah.
maybe not everybody on the street, obviously, but with people that you're close to or people that you even consider sending a text to, having that sense of like, if you ever need me, call me. And that's how this podcast started when my buddy
Yeah.
called me at 3 o'clock in the morning on top of his roof drunk. Was the aspect of like he was about to end his life because he felt like he had no control in it. And I eventually had him on here, but we hadn't talked for 5 years out of school. And he calls me up randomly and said, Hey, I had your number saved in my phone, but I know you actually cared about me when you said, How's your day going? And I was like, You don't understand how fucking impactful how your day is. Like,
Hmm.
whew,
I do. I mean, I do.
was a
But at the same
generalization.
time, but at the same time, I believe this, because I have to keep myself from self-destructing. Uh, I can only take the 50% that is mine towards other people. So as much as I would recognize and I would offer myself to somebody who is wanting to kill themselves, if they chose to kill themselves, I wouldn't blame myself either. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people do, because they're like, "Oh, I should have done more. I could have been more." And the truth of that is that that's not true. It's just not true. A lot of the time when people kill themselves, it's because they literally feel like they're doing the best for everyone. That, like, usually they feel like they're getting in other people's way. That they're tired of feeling like they're a drag on everybody. They're tired of having people have compassion for them, and they know that they suck people dry, and they hate feeling that way, and they really truly feel that life would be better without them there. And they think they're doing you a service. And sometimes when you ask, can I be there? That kind of drives them further sometimes. So, like, it's a very dark place, but I also know that ultimately I I can only regulate so much in my existence, and it's not my job to tell somebody what's worth living for and what the reality is. I'm only one person, that paradigm. Like, yeah, if in that moment I give them a spark and a reason to keep going, fucking awesome. I'm usually the person that's willing to be there for that. But on the counter end, if I end up not being the thing that keeps them around, I'm definitely not going to dog myself out for it either, because I can't give somebody a reason to want to be here. I can't. I want to be here. I know I love it. But sometimes by telling people, like, all the reasons that you see are worth living for, makes them feel worse, makes them feel bad. It's kind of like your cousin. I was just saying this to Rico the other day. He was talking about his family and how they had fancy cars and all this stuff, and why his dad has lost faith in so many things, and why he, is kind of such a miserable person. I was like, because, hun, he didn't feel like he earned those things. Do you understand that, like, sometimes when you have things that you don't feel like you earned, it makes it feel way worse. Like, and it makes sense that your cousin, when he finally started working for the things and actually earning the things that he got, even though they were minimal in comparison to like gold spattered food, he deserved those things. Those things felt right. And he knew he earned them. He knew that he deserved them. And through the act of figuring out and living life and accomplishing goals and struggle and realizing, what he was capable of, he found value in such little things, and it made him happy, because that's how you get happiness. You find what you're capable of. That's why you keep challenging yourself. That's why I was like, oh, watch out for the comfort zone, man. Like, the whole thing should be uncomfortable now so you can be comfortable later. But in my mind, I'm never supposed to reach comfort. Like, I'm never supposed to reach that comfort. When I reach comfort, I'm ready to die.
There's
That
a
that then is a downward spiral to
there's a
where I've plateaued and now I'm down.
there's a line between comfort and complacent. I find my
Yeah.
comfort when I'm never going to have to struggle for anything. Like, fucking, to me, heaven, if you ask me in quick words, maybe a nice depiction of like a diner with like a nice milkshake on top, like with, sitting at the diner bar, like just with a milkshake, just is fucking heaven to me. But even animal crackers, the simplest pleasures in life for me, like that's a good one. Animal crackers, like fucking Stouffer,
Fun, you can have them
sponsor
right
me.
now. But you can have them right now. Like, there's
That's
no
what I'm
struggle there.
saying. That's fun. That's good times for me.
But that's what I'm saying, is like, you're probably experiencing a hell of a lot more heaven than you think or you give credit for. It's all about what you're cognizant of, what you appreciate. I've met people that come up to me and they're like, how can you look at the world this way? And how can you negate all of this pain and all this suffering? And I was like, you think I don't see it? I was like, I see it. I'm just not going to let it own me. I'm not going to let it drive my every being. I'm not going to only see that. And they're like, well, and I was like, look, man, we're both deluded here. Except for my delusion makes me want to get out of bed and love my life and play. Your delusion makes you upset constantly, and yet you still are breathing. And I can't even understand it because of how you talk about things and people and life so much. It seems fucking miserable constantly. And who's more crazy, me or you? Because I'm happy to be here. I'm fucking playing, dude. So, like, maybe I'm crazy, but at least I'm having a good time. You keep breathing. You keep doing this and you're having a shit time. That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm not crazy because I'm having fun. Okay. I'm not crazy because
Never
I'm
try to talk somebody down from a ledge. If I was on a ledge right now, that would be like, all right, fuck it, and then just jumped off the ledge.
yeah,
Jesus.
but the thing of it is that I'm not here to talk you off the ledge. I'm here. I feel I'm here to make you live intently, purposely. That is an action that was took,
Hold on,
that did something deliberate.
are we saying me per se, or are we talking about this person that has been in this equation that we've been talking about for like the past 5 minutes?
well, no, like a hypothetical person. Like
Okay.
for me,
I'm not
I'm
on the
not
ledge. I love fucking
I'm not
animal
here to
crackers way
I'm
too
not here to
much.
save anybody. I'm not here to save anybody. That's what we started out with, was that I am not responsible for your safety. That, and I would never even delude you to think that the world is safe. I don't believe the world is safe. I think the world is precarious as fuck. I think it's I think
It's
it's fraught with peril.
it's pretty safe if you don't go outside.
Not necessarily, my friend. You could trip and fall. Look, I went to my 20-year high school reunion and they did a reel of people who had passed away before they reached their 20-year high school reunion.
Jesus
And
Christ.
right, exactly. And there was a kid who died, man, who died in his 20s because he walked out of his house, tripped, fell, cracked his head on a concrete block.
That
Toast.
didn't prove me wrong. I said stay inside your house. He left his house. That's how he cracked
And do
his
you have
head.
stairs? Do you have stairs? Do you have something you can trip on in your house?
Then
Do you have
move
hard
to
things?
a one story.
Do you want to be in a rubble room? Is that what you think? Do you think that that
Oh,
feels good? Do you think that's safe?
first off, I've been in one of those things
Right?
freely. It is okay. After like the first hour, it gets really fucking tasking. Um,
Yeah,
but a straight
right.
jacket's the worst. Jesus. Have you ever I got put in one of those? It's like hey, try this like for 5 minutes. Hell no. I don't like not being able to move my arms. That's
Have you
nuts.
seen how to escape them?
Ah, it's bullshit.
It's not.
Harry Houdini.
No, no, no. Like, well, there's a Netflix special where the guy breaks down how you do it. Now, the thing of it is, if you do it as a magician, you have to do it fast. So it can be done. It's just you have to do it fast. And these guys, they have to get the timing right for the performances that they do. But it can be done. They break it down how to do it.
I can see myself trying to get out of that after watching that video, and it's just me lying on the rubber floor going, just like because I can't move my arms, I can't get out. Harry Houdini, do you know how he died?
No.
Two people saw an event where he would like do this thing where he would have people punch him in the stomach as hard as possible, and he would like brace for it.
Oh yeah, I remember that. He
So
did. He died from a punch.
yeah, two people snuck into his room in the middle of the night while he was sleeping and was like, "Watch this!" Punched him in the stomach, and he died of like an contusion or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can totally. There's actually a serial killer that was known to be able to kill people with a punch, and I forget who it was. I want to say it was Gary Ridgway. I want to say it was that, but I could be wrong.
My knowledge on
Um,
serial killers is relatively low because there's only one that piques my interest, and that's fucking Charles Manson.
yeah.
Because they government drugged him.
I mean, I don't really know the story, but from what I gather, he never really killed anyone.
Exactly. I read his documentary. A dude spent 20 years of his life researching this thing, and every time Charles Manson would get locked up for these murders, they would let him go. They would just fucking let him go. So they believe that they actually found out that the government was giving him the drugs to do his actions, and nobody
Oh,
said a fucking word.
huh. I mean, that doesn't. I mean, I I read an autobiography about him that was basically like it was more the compassionate part of it, like more that he came from his mom was a prostitute, so then he was born to that setting where she automatically like put him in social services, and then he was in and out of boys homes which were highly abusive. I mean, it was like prison for boys. And then of course that's how he lived and how he grew up. And so when he entered society, of course he wasn't at all prepared for it, so he ended up in prison. And he found a lot of grounding aspects actually in prison. He learned how to play the guitar. He found out how to be a much better criminal. And then when he was released, it was at the height of the 60s, and there was all this free love and stuff like this. And people were, exploring ideas that he was like, oh, like I can use this to my benefit. And he was essentially a cult leader. And I don't know if the government fed him psychedelics, but I do know that around those times, the government was doing heavy experiments with psychedelics on their own
LSD.
people, soldiers. But it was, I mean, anybody that's done any psychedelics, the way that they were doing it, I mean, it would have made somebody crazy if you had just put them in a white room and not allowed them to sleep and kept the lights on all the time.
That's
But they would give them.
That's child's play to the accounts I read. They used to give
Well,
people
I know.
massive things of LSD, take strobe lights to their eyes, and they would play
Yeah.
crazy techno music and just have like there were soldiers that were killing themselves. It's all
Oh yeah,
brainwash
yeah.
programming. It's nuts.
Well,
People hear
you can't
brainwashing
sleep.
and they think it's fake. Brainwashing
Yeah,
is
I
not
know.
fake. It's just
Not.
hypnosis in a different form.
No, I know entirely. In fact, they're reinvoking the exploration of LSD, and I want to believe, and microdosing on mushrooms and things. I want to believe that it's because they're recognizing the fact that it actually has a lot of benefits for PTSD and people with addiction. But see, that was what it started out with before, and I don't know. I don't trust our government. I honestly, as far as our medical community, the way it's gone, I don't really trust them very much anymore. To be honest.
There's a Joe Rogan episode with a regenerative pharmacologist or something like that where he says that all addictions are bullshit. And I'm like sitting there like, all right, hang on a second. I went to school for addictions counseling. That's not bullshit. He starts saying, no, it's like he did a heroin and then did a TED talk on it. Like it's fucking nuts. He's like, these drugs are just drugs. They're just drugs. But what happens is when you take these stuff that has been so chemically infused by government and all this type of shit, and also when you have an issue, if you're a cocaine addict, you're not an addict of cocaine. You have an issue that cocaine is fixing, which is why you're chasing after cocaine. And he
Hmm.
explained it so fucking well where I'm like, I can argue this, but at the same time, I see his perspective on it, which is like it's hard to do when you spend like I went to school for addictions counseling. So when I hear this shit, I'm like, all right, I'm already pretty biased, but he got me kind of swayed. I'll have to send it to you. But like
Well, no,
it's
I agree with him actually. I think that it's insulting to anybody who's actually experiencing addiction because it's not validating the place that they're at, and it doesn't really help them to think of it that way. But when you postulate it to the societies that actually provide for government sponsored getting high, like the places that provide safe needles and places for you to shoot up,
Oregon.
there's yeah, like places like that, people actually start getting off of it. Like, not to say that there aren't people who die from it, but people after a while, it's kind of like me with pot. Like I've I like assessed like for the past like decade, I have been stoned much of that decade, not the whole way through, but I've had marijuana in my life consistently all the way up to that. Like I said, it was just available. It's still available to me. I could still do it every day. I could do it with half my clientele and they'd be fine with me tattooing them stone. I don't, but like I have clients that I mean, it's not a restriction of me whatsoever. And here I am, a person who's like, I don't really want to do it right now. It's not making me feel good. It doesn't make me feel connected to my body. And that's what happens eventually when you allow people to imbibe in a drug that doesn't make them a delinquent, that allows them to figure out a functional way to have this addiction in their life and still be a member of society and not be considered a criminal. But because we have criminalized addiction and we put people in jail for being addicts, it has created the stigma to where, you lose your job, you'll become this delinquent of society. Now, of course, if you're not doing your job as a result, then maybe the thing is that you can keep getting high and then realize you're going to keep losing jobs, and then you go, you know what, I really want to hold a job. Like I I don't want to keep getting stoned here. This isn't doing anything for me. And either you're gonna overdose or you're gonna get a fucking job and get sober. Like, but that's the thing that it allows you if like you're not a criminal as a result of it. So like if you're criminalized and because I believe that it comes from a mental illness, like addiction is a systemic thing from a mental illness, and it also is an allowance thing. It's something that sometimes you just grow up around. Like Rico, he's like, it's funny, everybody in my childhood, like I don't see a lot of people smoking anymore. Like everybody in my childhood like smoked. And I was like, well, you're fucking Italian, dude. And your mom like hung around biker gangs. I was like, of course everybody smoked. I said, there's no less people smoking now than when I was little. I said, but I didn't have smokers as parents. My
There's
parents didn't smoke.
there's less people smoking cigarettes than there were back in the day. My parents smoke. Everyone I knew fucking smoked when I was a kid. I'm not Italian or any of that.
I know, but like my parents didn't smoke around me.
That's
There
okay.
were friends of mine that do, but I
That
still
doesn't
see
mean there's
people
less
smoking.
people smoke. There's just there's way less more people. There's way less people smoking because you can't do it everywhere anymore. Now it's like limited. Now even
Well,
casinos don't let that shit happen. That used to be a big
well,
thing.
that's a whole other thing though,
It's the
right?
same
Like that's
problem.
well, I mean, I'm saying like I mean, it's also a hell of a lot more expensive than it was ever before.
That's
Like
why there's less people
hell of a lot.
smoking them. So that's what
Well,
I'm
I
saying.
know that, but what I'm saying is that like when you grow up around a certain thing, it does kind of,
Keep you from
it
going into that. Yeah.
right, exactly. Like I didn't even think of it because like for a while my parents they were just like, I did smoke for a while, but I never smoked like people hated me because I was never addicted to it. I could take it or leave it. I could smoke a pack and then be like, I don't want to right now, or then I'll smoke a couple and then never like, and I did it for like a 5-year long stretch of just off and on, off and on.
It's a social
And my
thing.
friends, yeah, my friends who needed to smoke, they were like, I fucking hate you, dude. Like the fact that you can just pick this up and not, and I was like, honestly, I mean, it's all right, but it's more about me enjoying a moment than it is about smoking. It's about me being outside with you and smoking a cigarette and hanging out with you than it is anything else. Or it's about enjoying my car ride and knowing that I can fill up my entire car with smoke and nobody's going to give a shit. And I can do something that's repetitive while I'm driving that kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like a whatever thing, but like that's all it is. Like I said I don't physically have the addiction to nicotine at all. Like and I really don't have it towards drugs either. Like I can take or leave most of them. I mean, I've done cocaine, I've done Adderall. I haven't done heroin. I have done high level painkillers and I hated them. I have drank poppy juice as an experiment. That fucked me up like no other, man. Oh, it's bad. Now if I didn't like it because I don't like opioids. I don't like feeling fuzzy and not adequate and not being functional. I really hate that. Now speed, I love anything that gears me up. Like anything that like ramps me up,
Cocaine?
I'm about it. But I don't
Cocaine.
I don't do it. I just like the feeling of it. Like I know that I'm on a drug. I know what it's doing. And I know that it's a slippery slope of continuing to do it that makes it bad, like that'll make it because I've had addicts in my family. So I know that it's the allowance I give myself to make it a habit that makes it a part of my everyday.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want that. So I just, I'll enjoy it for a moment and then I'll walk away. And I'm with the dude. I don't abuse drugs. I
You gotta
use them.
love the drugs. You gotta love them.
Yeah. Well, and you have to love yourself. And honestly, I didn't start using drugs until I knew what I got out of bed for. And that's the other thing is that I knew what I was passionate about when I started experimenting with drugs. I knew I wanted to be an artist. I knew I wanted to make money with my craft. I knew that if I did drugs or did anything like that before I had a reason to get out of bed in the morning, that was going to be bad. Because
Yeah.
most drugs will make you feel like they're the end all be all. Like
Yeah.
you have this state of euphoria. And I have more euphoric moments, being functional, being active, sharing with people, doing my job. enacting my truth than I've ever had doing a drug. I mean, doing a drug's fun, but it's just a moment, you know? And if anybody said you have to give up this drug or doing this drug in order to do what you love most, I'd be like, well, fuck the drug. I don't that's cool. I won't ever do it again. That's cool. I don't need that. I love this. I know I love this. And if I can't have this because I have to have this, that's fine. But honestly, it's never been the reality of my life. Like nobody's restricted me. My job doesn't restrict me. My friends don't restrict me. Um, and I can kind of do it when I want to do it, and then I cannot. And just the simple fact that it isn't a stigma of my life or my being, and it doesn't conflict with what I get out of bed for in the morning, and I know how to regulate it. I know that if I overdrink and I'm hungover and I got to work the next day, it's not happening, and I'm going to fuck somebody up, you know,
Yeah.
like that's not acceptable. And I would feel like a horrible person if I did that. So like
You're
that's not even,
responsible.
yeah. But see, that's the thing is that like I understood my responsibilities to the world, to myself, to my craft, to you know, everything before I started doing drugs. And I think that's why it's detrimental when you start doing them when you're young, because you know you don't really understand the scope of the dynamic yet, and you don't even know the scope of yourself yet because you're not even your own person yet. Like you're still a being that is not even considered an adult or a facet of, you can't sign a piece of paper and make decisions for yourself. It's all your parents that get to dictate that for you. So for you to start doing drugs then, it's gonna be a rough road like later. And that's probably why your friend like ended up where he was, you know, like he had to have a really bad, I mean, I hate to say he had to have, but you know why he ended up in a terrible car accident that took something from him big, that kind of, you know, it forced him into all of the realities that he was negating before. And now he understands his responsibility to his life, and he's so grateful, and he got himself out of those things. So I feel like you know, I you know, and it came from my parents who were just basically like, I
Amy, we're
mean,
hitting up on the 2 hour mark. I'm gonna have to cut it here soon.
oh sure, sure. No, that's fine.
It's only because Spotify doesn't take longer than 2 hours. So I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna have to get you back on to chat it up with me again.
Oh cool, right on. I like it. Let's do that.
Is there anything you want to end on? Like you got a final like because you said a lot of good stuff, but then you kept going on to something else. I'm like, hang on a second, that was perfect. Like find yourself before you fucking and then
Yeah.
it's impactful.
I'm going to end on, I don't think you're meant to find yourself. I think you're meant to enjoy the journey of finding yourself.
Kind
That's
of
what you're meant to find. The
fucking
love of the journey.
contradicted what I said, but okay, I'm with it. I'll
Yeah,
let
I know.
that one fly.
I don't agree with finding yourself. I think I'm always trying to find myself. And I think that that's amazing because I relish the times that life can surprise me or shake me up. And honestly, like that's why I'm not sad that I got fired. It shook me up. It shook me up. I've never had that happen before, but it wasn't as bad as I, you know, thought in my mind it would be. It changed the dynamic for a good thing. And I still don't know who the fuck I am.
That's that's a perspective I need because Jesus, man, I got so much anxiety with all this.
Well, relax, man. Less worry. It's fine. Like it's all gonna be fine.
Less
It will.
worry, more animal crackers.
Yes. Yes. Get a milkshake.
Right? At a nice diner, that is heaven.